Here in the beginning of 2023, there are a lot of camera rumors flying around, especially from Canon. Nobody knows what Nikon's doing. Sony and Fuji look to have already done it, and only 4 people care about Panasonic. Canon, though, have been teasing and taunting what are right now fictitious cameras for a long time. Does an R1 exist? Will it ever? It's kind of like the lead up to the Sony a7S III, for those of you who remember that, where for years, everyone thought it must be coming, just to have every announcement instead be some dumb point and shoot. Canon has now become the king of that with the alleged R1, the alleged R5 Mark II. Instead of all these awesome sounding things, we will get soon what is likely to be an R8. I don't think anyone asked for that or would even enjoy a replacement for the EOS R. I mean, that was an awful camera. All of these are stills cameras, though, and Canon has been playing catch-up to Sony for a long time, and they're still behind in most ways. Now, before you go smashing your keyboard, in Canon's defense, trying to call me out, know this. I own and use daily, as a full-time commercial photographer, several of the latest Canon and Sony bodies. So yes, I do know what I'm talking about here. And you can take a look back at my past videos to see a ton of content comparing several of them with actual workflows. Now, having said all that about stills bodies, we get into the elephant in the room, and that's that Canon cinema cameras play in a different sandbox than Sony cinema cameras do. Now, I'm not talking about the Venice here, but if I were talking about the Venice, I still see little reason to choose the Venice over some of the other competitively priced options, and I'll leave you to draw your own conclusions about what I mean there. The bread and butter Canon cinema line is head and shoulders more capable than the FX6 and FX9 from Sony. Where the Sony FX series cameras shine is that as rehoused alpha bodies, they benefit from the alpha autofocus, which is the best in the game. Everything else, with the exception of their cool electronic ND, which is cool, is not really as good as the C70, C300, C500 II, etc. They're just not. Add to that, snapshot in time, January 2023, something is stirring in the land of upcoming cine cameras. And whatever that ends up being, for my purposes, it's secondary to the deal I just got. I mean, I still can't believe that I got these cameras for this price. So here, buckle up, grab yourself a beverage, but let my intro run in the background so the algorithm thinks you're still there, and we'll get into it. I'm Brian Roberts. Welcome to Loud and Clear. Here it is, the big reveal. I now own a pair of Canon C200Bs. And everybody goes, what? That's what, a 5-year-old camera? Yes, but what did I pay? And more importantly, at least as importantly anyway, is what can it do? So I'm going to start with that. What can it do? By most measure, the C70 was the replacement a couple years ago to the C200. And it's a better camera in many ways. The C200 still does do some things better, though. It has SDI out, which can simultaneously be used with the HDMI out and have menu overlays on one or the other or both, for instance. The C200 has not only dual SD cards on board, but also the much more robust CFast 2. So yeah, the C200 is still better in some ways, but with the DJI sensor of the C70, it was going to be a tough sell to spend as much or more for a C200, which I originally think was around $8,000 or so new. That is until about a week ago. At the time of the publishing of this video, the entire line of C200 SKUs are on massive clearance sales. I picked up my pair of them for $2,500 each. Yeah, that's half the price of a C70. And for how I'm using them, there's zero difference. C200 shoots a true 12-bit RAW. It has not only autofocus and not only face priority autofocus, but face only autofocus, just like the C70, and that's clutch for talking head small crew gigs. The C200 has built-in NDs, full-size XLRs with phantom power, selectable input gain, another thing the C70 doesn't. C200 to me is an easier form factor to rig. And when you use the side grip with the C200, it can rotate on the rosette that's built into it. Something I've heard a lot of C70 owners kind of gripe about is the fixed grip angle. Now look, I'm not suggesting the C200 is on balance a better camera than the C70 because it isn't. The C70 DJO sensor, 10-bit non-RAW codec, whereas the C200 is an 8-bit only in the non-RAW modes, and RF mount alone are extraordinarily powerful reasons to choose the C70 instead. But what I'm saying is this. If your use case is like mine, and that is my pair of C200s will either permanently live in my YouTube studio, which is where they are right now, or be on location filming in RAW. Corporate locked off shots very similar to this, at $2,500, there are zero other cameras on the market that even come close to the capabilities of this camera. Zero. In fact, if you define the value of C200 as a camera that records internal RAW, has built-in NDs, both SDI and HDMI out, phantom-powered XLRs, face-only autofocus that actually works, heck, the thing is even networkable, right? No Sony, Blackmagic, or even Red cameras do all those things. You'd need to go all the way up to the $10,000 C300 III to get all those things. And strangely, the C300 III still rocks an EF mount. My other takeaway is this. There's no other way to look at this clearance move by dealers like B&H in any other way than a stock dump ahead of an announcement. Whatever that announcement is, they know enough about it to think it will make the C200 much less appealing by comparison. This price, though, is $2,500, and these are real deal cinema workhorses shooting 4K RAW. Whatever the new shiny thing will do or not do, I don't care. I'm a working photographer, and I'm pragmatic enough to realize a crazy deal on a tool that fits my needs wonderfully. But let me know what you think down below. What do you think Canon's cooking up? Do you think the C200 is a great deal for what it is right now? And I'll see you again soon. Peace.